Well, first of all, congratulations on your TIFF and Palm Springs International Film Festival Awards. I understand you were drawn to Françoise Sagan's famous French tale because of its central women. So, how do you feel your Bonjour Tristesse adaptation compares to 1958 film in terms of perspective, specifically because he was a male filmmaker?
I love the auto premature version. I think it's really beautiful and has stayed with me long after seeing it. I guess I wasn't really thinking about it in that way. Like I really focused on Françoise Sagan's book, and I really wanted to adapt her book. And I think all filmmakers, artists just kind of enter their work in a very different way. The way he works is obviously going to be very different than the way that I work, and what moved him to adapt it will be very different than what moved me to adapt it. So I don't even really think about it on those terms. I honestly just saw it as an opportunity in terms of it being a book that had a lot of women in it, some that were done more in terms of like a sketch. And when you're adapting material, especially a book that's so beloved, I think it's a real chance if you can find your way in a voice that makes the most sense to you. And women have always been just such a great vessel for me to understand the world, be inspired to be a part of this world, especially women artists. And so I guess I just didn't really think about it on those terms. And my way into this adaptation was very much obviously inspired by Françoise Sagan herself, um, and her kind of prescient writing about these women, but also I wanted to be additive in this version. And so I just tried to let the book tell me what it was and then find how my voice could, like I said, be additive to that.
Right. And I guess I have a follow-up question for all of you. How do you feel her story? It obviously was seen as so, rebellious and like fresh in the 50s, but how do you all feel that it's relevant today? Why does it still speak to so many people?
I hadn't read the book before becoming attached to the film. As soon as I got the part, I picked it up and devoured it. And I was really taken aback by how contemporary and fresh Francois' voice, Cecile's narration still feels to this day. I had that sort of like when you're so sucked into the narrative of a book and the voice of its protagonist, and you see all of the original thoughts that only you had, like being voiced by someone else, not just someone else, but someone else 75 years ago. It was really exciting and inspiring to see the way that yeah, our experiences still very much coincide. And I think that's just a testament to like Francois Sagan's honesty and like candor in the way that she wrote her characters, and spoke completely like uh, unfiltered about certain subjects such as sexuality, such as um, uh, sort of vice and guilt and envy and competition between women, and um, a frustration with like the expectations of the adult world.
Yeah,
Dan,
I'm always inspired by, coming of age and, young women, discovering themselves and their power and their sexuality and the passion that usually kind of comes along with that. And to me, that's an endlessly fascinating subject. And I was really drawn to the relationship of the father-daughter relationship. Having lost my father when I was younger, and we were very close, and just feeling that's underrepresented on screen. And I know we talk a lot about the women in the movie, but I was very interested in that, and the competition to have your father's love. And I think that that's very it's a prevalent theme, but like people, we don't see it that often. So that was one of the things that really attracted me to the movie.
I think we don't see it too because it's always assumed it comes with like a layer of taboo or something, or So I too, like I'm with Chloe on that. Like it's definitely one of my favorite types of movies. especially in a situation like this one where the daughter wants to be like shoulder to shoulder with the father too. I think that's always really interesting in terms of like where they stand with
Yeah.
each other.
And a lot of women I've spoken to, after having read the book or seen the original film, and I hope after seeing ours, speak about that as well, that the father-daughter relationship is one of their like favorite elements, and like they're excited to finally see that like explored deeper.
Right. Beautiful. It really, the relationships between all of the characters, I feel like even a film review, you could go on for pages and pages and pages. There's so much to explore here. So I have a question for Chloe and Lily, both specifically. So to what degree, if any, did you reference or pull from Gene Seberg and Deborah Kerr's performances in the original film? And or did you avoid studying it altogether? Chloe, I think I did see you talk about how you didn't see the film. I want you to both talk about your choices to do that or not do that.
I hadn't seen the film, and I still haven't seen the film.
Really?
I don't see a lot of films having a toddler, but I was thinking about like why haven't I watched it yet? Um, but yeah, I think I wouldn't want to watch it prior, having not seen it already, because I wouldn't want to fall in any traps of mimicry or then being like in my head about them trying to avoid it if it felt like a natural thing for me to play. So, having one, I mean, the material's fresh, it's new, it's Durga's take on the novel, and I wanted to, also have my take, my interpretation, and not have it clouded by someone else's.
Yeah. I also abstained from watching it prior to filming for the same reasons. I wanted to stay true to Durga's vision because it is very much a unique kind of individual adaptation of the novel. We're not remaking Premingers, and we're not trying to because it is such a, unique and iconic film by itself. I have seen it and I love it. And I adore Gene Seberg and Deborah Kerr and all of the actors in it. Um, I'm glad I didn't watch it before filming because it would have been difficult not to even sort of subconsciously reference it or try to compare my own interpretation to Gene's. But watching it was like a very emotional experience. I felt connected to Gene in this really like profound way, having just like spent so much time in the same world and the same spirit of Cecile. I was I was moved by the film, but I was also just moved by this kind of like parasocial relationship I had with her character.
Right, you're like, I'm forever connected to you.
I guess so. I'm very grateful for that.
Okay, so Durga, I have another question for you specifically about visually. It's just the film is delicious, and I don't want to compare or I don't want to directly compare, but in a sense, it almost reminded me of like a visually a French like Call Me by Your Name type experience where I was like, I want to be there eating fruit and snoozing outside. It's just so beautiful. So, I understand that you said you pulled inspiration from the art of various photographers and filmmakers and painters. And you also said that some of the films that you found inspiration, they weren't even showing, these sunny beaches or anything like that. So can you discuss some of your specific inspirations?
Yeah, I mean, I did want people to feel like they wanted to be there. I think that's kind of what you're doing with a movie set in the summer. You want a feeling of escape. Um, but I also wanted to be not romantic about it in a way where my our 2 feet weren't on the ground, sort of. There was a lot of practical choices we wanted to make. Some of them were as simple as, it's set in the summer and everyone's really hot, and maybe that means inside the curtains are drawn to keep it cool. And what does that mean to a scene? What does that mean to a scene set in the afternoon? Kind of a darker scene that would be expected to be bright and sun speckled. And so our cinematographer, Maximilian Pittner, and I, we talked a lot about that, which led us to paintings actually a lot, mostly just because a lot of the paintings we were drawn to that were set in the summer were actually used like really dark paints to get at the sunlight, you know? So like I said, it was just like very practical decisions. Trying to find a solution really inspired me a lot in terms of the visual language for the film. It can feel maximalist, I think, to some people, but I feel like in order to maybe create that, we made very minimal decision. We made some very specific decisions that feel more minimalist to me in some ways. I had gone to this Felix Vallotton exhibit at the Met. Like I think at some point in making the film, maybe just writing it, and I remember thinking like it's all the paintings are so dark, but they're set in the summer, and just that contrast interested me. A lot of the decisions, I wasn't like thinking about them theoretically. They kind of just worked for me, and I tested them out by just talking about them with whoever was collaborating to make the image, right? We looked at the photographer Luigi Ghiri's photographs a lot, mostly just because the way that he does blue and brown and white is kind of more from a memory, and that was evocative to us. A lot of our decisions were just emotional too. So Max and I liked the same thing, and liking it together was enough energy for me to go forth with it, you know? It's nice when it's not like combative, you know? And so we found a language, and yeah, photographers and painters are just people that, you know, artists that inspire me in my day to day. And so that was just, it was like kind of an extracurricular activity in planning out this film to just spend time with the photo books in our house, you know, like it's such a treat. So yeah.
It sounds like a visceral experience making these decisions. So that's amazing.
Yeah.
And one last question. So Chloe, specifically you, also the painting behind you is giving me life. I love so much. So that was such a joy. But specifically, you recently told us in an interview for Magic Farm that Luca Guadagnino sees the character actor in you, and that kind of applies to After the Hunt. Could work, I guess there was an implication it does. So could you tell us more about your character in that upcoming film? And also, have you spoken to him at all about his American Psycho remake? Is there anything you can tell us?
I did. I wrote to him about the American Psycho remake, and I pitched to him that he cast me as Jean, the secretary, again, and do the reverse aging process on me. I thought that would be very Luca to be like, oh, I'm going to cast her as the secretary again.
Yeah.
The chance to play the same character. I thought that was very cool and conceptual. He didn't go for it, but he said he had something else in mind for me for that. But we'll see.
Fun.
He has so many, you know, irons on the fire. But yeah, I guess more in After the Hunt, he, you know, what he did with Jason Schwartzman on Queer, like I think he like, or what he did with Me and Bones and all, is he kind of, you know, has this idea of creating a new look, and I think that you know lends itself to thinking people it's more of a character. But I would even say in this, it's like in Bonjour Tristesse, this, I don't know if like character actor, you know, applies to like a role this size. I'm not articulating this well, but I guess I feel like I was more hiding in this character than I have in a lot of other characters of late. I don't know. I'm not sure if that's answering your question, but yeah.
No, absolutely it is. Yeah, absolutely. That was all the time that we all have. Thank you so much. And this has been really wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bianca.
Thank you.